Hey guys, it's your girl Keziah, your friend in the room, and welcome back to episode 5 of the Friend in the Room podcast. I think it's episode 5. Guys, it's been very long. As usual, I always say this, I'm not going to come with the apologies, I'm not going to come with the sob story, I'm not going to come with no tiny violins. It's been a while. But this episode kind of links into why. I feel like every episode links into why. There's always a reason that I'm disappearing, but I hope you all are doing well. It is currently 9... what? It's 10:22. 2222. It's 10:22. I literally thought it was 9:30. I don't know where the time flew and I don't know where the time went, but I was planning this episode in my journal before getting on the mic. So yeah, I apologize for... Wait, I was about to say I apologize for coming at you guys so late, as if you're going to listen to this at the exact same time that I'm recording it. I wish it was that easy to just speak and then have the episode out straight away. But let's get into why I'm here. Today, we're going to talk about a dilemma that I thought about a couple of days ago. Sorry if you hear wheezing, by the way. Sometimes my throat does that. I don't have a cold. I don't have any sort of sickness whatsoever, but sometimes you just hear a wheeze when I take a deep breath. So if you hear that every now and then, I do sincerely apologize. I don't know where it's coming from. Anyway, let's get into the thought process behind this episode. So I woke up this morning. If you don't know, which you obviously won't know because I haven't been here for how many flipping weeks. My parents are away right now. I live at home with my parents and my younger brother. My parents are away right now on holidays. They have a wedding. And my brother is at a family friend's house, meaning that I've had the house to myself over the last couple of days, and I never get the house to myself, guys. It's been blissful. I almost don't want anybody to come back home. I love the silence. I love going to bed in peace. I love not hearing my brother making music next door to me because he's a producer and he's always beatboxing goodness knows what. Like, it does my head in, but love him. And, not hearing my parents telling me, hey, can you get this? Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you help me with this? I love them again, but it's been such a nice change. And I said, you know what, with this quiet house, I need to record a podcast episode. If there's any time, it's the present. And I won't get a chance to have a peaceful train of thought again for goodness knows how long. From behind the scenes of this podcast, my goodness, it can get so jarring where my brother will just be making an abundance of noise and I literally have to scream at everyone in the house to be quiet and let me think for 5 flipping seconds. So my chance to do that now, very rare. However, I didn't really have any conversation or thoughts that I wanted to, not that I wanted to, but I didn't have any particular thoughts or topics that I was prepared to speak about because I've had a great summer. It's been a great time. I didn't know if I wanted to come back after 4, 5, how many weeks and talk about my life and what I've been up to. I want to talk about something that I learned, as always, because this is a somewhat educational podcast for you guys to learn something new alongside me. So I thought to myself, well, since I can't think of something off the top of my head, let me see if there's any current affairs going on. Let me scroll on TikTok. Let me scroll on Substack. Let me see if I can get some sort of inspiration. Let it trigger something in my brain. And I didn't even get to the crux of any of those apps. I didn't even get to properly delve into them because I had almost a eureka moment. I asked myself, why am I choosing to consume more than I create? And that is the question of this podcast episode. Is it better to consume or to create? Does creativity require some element of consumption of other information and other resources? Or are those other resources somewhat hindering the uniqueness of your creativity because you get so obsessed and fixated on the information that you're receiving? Or you get fixated and obsessed with how good that information sounds from the mouths of other people and you question your worthiness in terms of how well you're able to articulate what you wanted to originally say. And the latter is usually my experience, and it's usually what takes me so long to come out with podcast episodes in the first place. And I think that stems from my academic background and a myriad of other things where perfectionism runs rampant in my DNA, it runs rampant in my thought processes. And I don't know why I said processes like that, as if, wait, that's correct, right? Processes, who cares? Who cares? It runs rampant in my thought processes, this notion that if something is not well researched or classically trained or formally educated upon, then sometimes I wonder if it's worth me speaking about it because somebody else has already spoken about it to such a deep extent before. And we'll get into my thought processes. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to say the word thought process again in this whole episode. If I do, wrap it up. But we're gonna get into that today. And I'll just start by reading out a little excerpt of what I wrote this evening, and then we'll kind of just go from there. But if you guys don't know, my name is Keziah. I feel like I should be introducing myself sometimes in these episodes because this could be the first episode you land on, or you could be, 5 episodes in and still not know who the hell I am, which fair enough because I have a habit of just jumping on the internet and talking about what I want to talk about and not saying anything about myself. I've had someone actually DM me on TikTok saying that I'm AI. Long story short, it's kind of just because I do exactly that. I just come on here, I spew information that I learned, and I kind of just disappear into the shadows for multiple days or weeks or months at a time. But my name is Keziah. I'm 23. It's kind of hard to talk about myself outside of interviews that I don't get jobs for. So I don't really know what to say. The whole point of this podcast, called Friend in the Room, is so that you can feel as though there is a literal friend in the room as I am speaking. I want you to feel as if I'm one of your girls on the phone, somebody that is, teaching you something new, somebody that's talking about their day, somebody that's, growing alongside you in this, I was going to say this crazy thing called life. Ew, shoot me. But quite literally that. I hope that you're learning something new alongside me, and I hope as you continue to listen to future episodes, you'll get a further sense of the kind of person that I'm trying to become, because I can't say that I'm there yet, and who's to say that I ever will get to where I want to be, quote unquote, in this lifetime. It's all about the continuous journey and the lessons that we learn in between each chapter that unfolds. So I hope that you'll join me on this chapter 5. I'm pretty sure this is chapter 5 of this podcast episode. If it isn't, forgive me. But yes, I be talking, I be yapping, I be writing. You can check out my short form content on TikTok. I post on Instagram with a gun pointed to my head because I hate that place. Real scary. And I also have a Substack, so basically my podcast in word form. I'm probably off course already and we're 8 minutes in, so without further ado, let's get into these journal excerpts. So one of the paragraphs says, "And that's when I thought, am I really trying to use consumption as a crutch for creation? There's enough madness in my brain to form a semi-cohesive idea, so I rely on being learned, quote unquote, or well-read, quote unquote, to view or deem my freshly verbalized ideas as worthy or complete. So here I am, developing this thought in real time, because there are no real rules for how ideas should be. It's clear that when I have a thought, I come to my journal and I flesh it out. Sometimes it becomes a Substack article, sometimes a TikTok, sometimes it's a podcast episode, and sometimes its sole purpose is to alter my brain chemistry, or to prove a point to my ego, or to highlight my ego to myself, to change for the better. But as transformative and important creative writing is to me, I get sidetracked by an unsilenceable imposter syndrome. That is because I'm not as well read or learned, quote unquote, as other intellectuals on the internet. That maybe I'm not complete in my intellectualism, and this leaks into all of my creative endeavors." Okay, now let's talk about what the hell I just said in this excerpt, right? I said I'm trying to use consumption as a crutch for creation, right? I feel like a lot of us do that. I don't know, let me know if you relate in the comments at all. But let's just say you have some sort of idea. Oh, let's make it really like juvenile, very simple, right? You want to make like a recipe or something, and you're thinking, "Oh, I don't think anyone's done this flavor combination before, but oh, just in case, let me see on TikTok if there's any inspiration for how I can make this creation my own." And then you see millions of other people doing a very similar combination that you saw or you thought of a few minutes prior. And there's a multitude of things that can go on in your brain, right? You can take it from a self-criticism sense where you're like, damn, I really thought I was super original with that. I really thought that nobody had done this before. I thought I was going to eat with this. I thought, if I post this, people would think it's super revolutionary, but clearly not. Loads of people have already done this. What's the point? Yeah, forget it. I'm going to just come up with something else, or, I'm just going to forget it because now I'm just going to look like I'm copying everyone else. So there's that lens, self-criticism. And then you also have the complete abandonment of self, where you don't necessarily not make the video or not make the recipe. But what happens now is a thought that was originally your own, that if you just sat with it for a few seconds longer, it could have amalgamated into something really beautiful and special for you. You have now taken inspiration from the 20 or so TikToks that you scrolled through when you searched up that recipe. And now when you make your recipe, you are now using a actual physical recipe list from one of the TikTok videos verbatim, because you deep down don't want to get it wrong, of course, because wow, somebody else has done it before me and it turned out great. So you know what, instead of me, trying and experimenting with it, let me just make sure that I do it right. And I can tag this person in the comments, because I obviously also don't want to seem like a copycat. I don't want to seem like I made this up myself when I clearly didn't. So you have a two-pronged result of consuming before you create. And I'm very against this notion because I've lived it for all 23 years of my life. And sorry, sidetrack again. Last time I spoke to you guys, I was 22. So it's been a lot more than a month that I've been on here. You guys don't even know that I went on a solo trip. You don't even know how I celebrated my birthday on the 23rd of June. You don't even know the fact that I turned 23rd on the 23rd of June, and it was my golden birthday, chai. And it was my Jordan year, chai. Wow. It's been a very long time, guys. Sorry, I'm getting so sidetracked. Anyway, two-pronged result of choosing to consume before you create. And let's talk about why we do that, okay? I think that it is an element of not trusting yourself. Again, this notion is not revolutionary. Dare I say, it's kind of obvious. But me talking about and stating the obvious is in direct defiance to the notion that extraordinary thoughts should be kept for a specific cohort of people, and that we are not allowed to speak about things just because they've already been spoken about before. This is me bringing up this conversation again. As I said in episode 1 of my podcast, I am reigniting the flames of prior conversation in the hopes that we can delve into them and explore more. I said this 2 years ago. Seems like I was clued in back then, but clearly not, because a lot of the habits are still leaking into the way that I operate now. A lot of us lack a sense of trust in ourselves, and that comes from a myriad of things. It doesn't just come from low self-esteem or self-doubt that was instilled in you as a child. It comes from the fact that information is so easily accessible nowadays. And back when I made my first podcast episode, even then, ChatGPT and AI were not really that prevalent. But now you can ask ChatGPT for every single thought that you ever have, what do you think of this? And it would give you an opinion. And you may take that opinion and indirectly and subconsciously garner it as your own, but is it really your own? You didn't trust yourself to sit with that discomfort of having a thought that is not fully fleshed out and developed yet. I think people underestimate how uncomfortable that actually is, especially because we are, like I said, surrounded by information, that the thought of reckoning with uncertainty is very foreign, and it can actually have a visceral reaction. And like I said, if I came on here maybe a couple of days after fleshing out this point, I probably would have come with some sort of PubMed research or some sort of sources to back me up here, but I'm 90% sure that there is a neurological sensation that occurs in the brain upon retrieving new information or upon ideating something that has not yet been developed. And I'm sure it's a combination of discomfort and confusion and a desperation to reckon with that confusion straight away. It's what happens in people who have OCD. Hello. Undiagnosed, but 90% sure I do have it, because yes, when I feel uncertainty in other aspects of my life, for example, things that I cannot control, the first thing I want to do is look for an answer. The first thing I want to do is, okay, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? How do I fix this? I don't like thinking about things that I don't know about. I don't like thinking about thoughts that are not fully thought out. Fix it. Fix it, fix it, fix it. And in a juvenile sense, we do that with recipes. We do that with makeup looks. We do that with a lot of aspects of creativity. And unfortunately, we see it on Substack too. Substack is a place of personal essays, and people create the thoughts by themselves, and yet I'm still seeing AI generated Substack articles. What is this world coming to? Very, very scary. But I understand there is method to the madness, and I understand where it comes from and where this discomfort comes from, and why there is this urge to want to consume content that is likened to the thought that you just had or the idea that you just had, partially to not feel like you're crazy, but partially to almost quell your heart and your spirit to know that, okay, no, like, this thought is normal. This is a thought that people do have, yes, and you see, this is an example of someone having your thought and executing it this way and executing it that way, and you feel calm and you feel good about it. and then you go about your day and you don't reckon with the thought anymore. Why? Because it's already been dealt with by somebody else. You didn't give yourself enough time to trust yourself with that thought, develop it into a theory that you could then delve into and create principle for yourself, for your personal life, for a recipe, for a makeup look, for a style of clothing, for a car that you wanted to buy, for the way you wanted to decorate your house. You didn't trust yourself enough with your own vision. And eventually we are going to hit this exponential increase in people not having original thoughts and ideas anymore, because combined with a lack of trust in ourselves and the prevalence of multimedia information, you also have a subset of people, the most irritating people in the world, who think that it's normal to gatekeep intelligence and gatekeep what's deemed as an interesting or worthy thought to have. That if it's not curated with the longest words and the most references and the most PubMed citations, that you shouldn't waste your time talking about it. And so we've now limited the space for people to expand on ideas. And it's almost like I'm coming full circle here, because it's around this time 2 years ago that I started my podcast. And it's around this time 2 years ago that I had this idea, this fear of being extraordinary, because there's been so many extraordinary people before. But like I said in that episode, there is so much room on the table. And with that room on the table should give you the audacity to take up that space, and not just take up that space like, oh, I'm going to make my content or whatever. Not everyone's a content creator, and not everyone's dreams and not everyone's thoughts are surrounded by or circulating the internet. But I mean that people who are creative or people who have thoughts, aka most people, should feel safe enough to explore their ideas and maybe hit a dead end and not be told to give up and forget it because somebody else has done it before, and not be told, leave this for the experts, leave this for the people who've already done the work. Just go read their work and take that as your central dogma and take that as your belief system and move on. Stop trying to force a hole in a wall that's already cemented up. Like, there's a door right there. Why are you headbutting into the wall? What's the point? And that's such a sad reality that we live in right now. So I think that when I look at the way that I create, right, and this is not me blowing my own, is it blowing my own horn? Blowing my own trumpet, tooting my... Guys, it's actually 11 p.m. It's actually 11 p.m. There's certain things that are amiss in my analogy generation in my brain right now. Maybe I should have waited till the morning, but I need to have this episode done in silence. You see, if my brother was here, I'd be hearing and that would have thrown me off even more. So let's just ride the wave, okay, shall we? What was I even saying? Oh yes, I was talking about myself. Shocker. I was talking about myself, and I was talking about the way that I create. And one thing that I noticed, and I actually posted a TikTok this evening, just for people on my page to know me a little bit, because we're almost at 1,000 followers. Hey, it only took me a year and a half, but we're getting there. We're getting there at some point. But we won't talk about my TikTok on here. That's kind of irrelevant. If you want to know what's going on over there, head over there. But I posted a TikTok recently talking about how I develop imposter syndrome now, because the way that I create and the way that I come up with thoughts is like almost reverse and like opposite what is expected. I create way more than I consume. And when I have a thought, usually the first thing I do, I'll come and grab my journal. I just start word vomit. And eventually a cohesive thought will produce itself from my words. And then I will read back over it. And it's like my brain kind of like I said in the excerpt a few minutes ago, it's kind of like my brain chemistry will alter, and it's like, wow, I learned something new about myself. Oh, this is really fascinating. Okay, I'm going to take this with me for the rest of my life. And I go to bed and life goes on. And then I'll probably make a TikTok about it, or I'll probably make a oh my gosh, I'll probably make a Substack about it. But then I noticed that the content or the thoughts that I have that are the most stifled are the ones where I decide to open my goddamn phone and verify that somebody else is having the same thoughts as me. Like, what do you mean I'm thinking about, like, even just there, like, when I said, oh, I create more than I consume, I was like, oh, I've never heard anyone say that before. Instead of just riding the wave, I was about to go and check up create more than consume. And then what would I have seen? Probably like loads of other intellectual TikToks or educational TikTokers who have said something similar to what I've said. And then I'll feel like a dummy. I'll be like, nah, I can't post about this now because other people have posted about it. I'm going to look like I'm following a trend. Someone's going to say that I copied them. And then the thought dies. And within that, before the thought has even died with my lack of self-belief, I've completely sidetracked myself because I'm talking in hypotheticals. This is what would have happened if I decided to carry out this search. But I would have not been able to phrase myself and let the thoughts flow in the way that they have now in their most organic state if I cut off my thought process. I said I wasn't going to say that word. It's 11 p.m. I'll allow it. It's actually 11 p.m. It's 10:45, but come see, come sa. I would have cut off my brain process entirely by scrolling on TikTok because we know how dopamine works. We already know the ins and outs of the dangers of scrolling too much online and consuming too much information. But the same principle applies if I wanted to go on PubMed and go and read and see if anybody has spoken about this before, or go on Google Scholar or go on Substack. Somebody else having this conversation before doesn't make a difference if I want to have this conversation. If I want to have this conversation about creating more than I consume, why does it matter that somebody else has said it before me? And if they have said it before me, why should it then stop me from speaking about it at all? Is it better to speak or to die? Speak. Speak. Because without you speaking, the thoughts are dying. And as thoughts die, there's nothing left for us to consume. If people are not creating, what is there to consume? The cycle is continuous for a reason. We create so that others consume, so that others can create. I'll repeat that sentence. We create so that people that can consume and use that consumption to create. There are things that require consumption for creation. There's certain drawings, there's certain color schemes, there's certain things that you must learn, that you must be classically trained in. But the classical training curriculum did not exist out of nowhere. That came from somebody's creativity. And imagine that some person hindered their creativity because they saw somebody else talking about color theory before. Look at Kai Collective. Kai Collective is a very famous black-owned brand. She had Keziah. She is Nigerian. She had her beautiful Nigerian wedding. She had ashwabi, which is a Nigerian traditional cloth. She created her own. She made a custom-made ashwabi to suit her color scheme and to suit her wedding. Imagine she said, oh, let me not do that because somebody else has done that before. She has created a whole new lane of custom ashwabi for weddings, and people will take inspiration from that. And they will either execute it or they will get stuck on, damn, I was going to do something like that. But since Keziah's done it, I'm going to look like a beg if I copy her. Just allow it. Forget it. There's as much as there's a lack of trust that comes with consuming before you create, there is an element of the ego that exists there. And I think a lot of people are not ready to open up that conversation because people villainize the word ego and they view it as, oh my gosh, the devil on your shoulder. But ego is so much deeper than that. It is simply the fact that you see yourself so vividly that you refuse to see yourself in any other way. You have a limited viewpoint of who you are, and you tell yourself who you are without understanding that there are elements to yourself that take curating and deep levels of self-reflection to see and understand. And sometimes when you sit with yourself and you feel that discomfort, you just tell yourself that, oh no, I'm only human. Of course I'm going to feel that type of way. Of course, then I guess I need to stop because I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt, my pride. I don't want people to think that I'm a beg. I don't want people to think this and that and that. Why do you think people will think that way? Why do you think that way? Why do you believe that people will view you as a beg just because you did the same design as Keziah did? And who says you're going to do it the same way? Open your book and flip and create. Flip and sketch what you need to sketch. Draw what you need to draw. Think what you need to think. Read what you need to read. Speak what you want to say. Do what you got to do, but create, but more than you consume. All creatives should be creating at a rate that is faster than the content that they are consuming. Point blank, period. I think that's the point that I'm trying to get to, basically. If you find yourself scrolling, reading, tapping, typing more than you are writing, drawing, singing, playing, recording, something's wrong. Something is amiss. Something is amiss in your creative process, and it's most likely the infiltration of other people's work. That while similar, it is not the same. And while likened to your thought process is not your thought process. And let me read another excerpt from my diary to kind of wrap up this notion of mine. I create more than I consume, thus making me question the validity in all that I do. I write a Substack but barely read books anymore. I'm a makeup artist who wasn't classically educated, and I haven't sat to watch a makeup tutorial in years. Even when I know my work is good, I know it could be better if I took the time to master it. But here's the thing, I don't know that. All I know, quote unquote, is that I have a habit of associating formal education with mastery. But I, of all people, should know that that's not true. There are health economists who don't have my master's degree or my thesis research experience who are unequivocally better than me. There are excellent biomedical scientists who started as lab associates with no formal 4-year degree like I got. The perfectionism that urges me to be well-read often backfires into consuming a bunch of research that distracts me from the original notion that I was previously trying to convey. TikToks of people speaking on something kind of close, but still getting discouraged by how eloquently they were able to string it all together. It's like I forget what I said in my first episode. The need to be extraordinary in your thinking often distracts you from the extraordinary nature of an original thought. No one will ever say something like me. So what a shame it will be to lose my train of thought and its uniqueness just for the desire to appear like I know what I'm talking about. If everybody knew what they were talking about, there would be no need to speak at all or to create at all, and there wouldn't even be anything left to consume. Create more than you consume. People, we are losing the recipes to our mom's peach cobbler. People are not creating anymore. Everything AI, everything ChatGPT, everything ChatGPT. Do you think this looks good? Do you think this phone case looks good? Do you think my hair looks good like this? Turn me into someone who has red hair. Oh, ChatGPT, can you tell me if I should buy this makeup box or not? What's the probability that I'm actually going to like this makeup box? What's the probability that this TikTok is going to go viral? What's the probability that if I do this hair and do this outfit at a concert that all the girls will be wearing the same thing as me? Who cares? Who cares? Put the shit on. Put the clothes on. Dye your freaking hair. Do what you have to do, guys. But the more that we second guess our first instincts, the more we're losing the art of having original thought. And I think that impulsiveness is kind of missing in the creative scene today. Well, I don't say that it's missing, but I think look at the people who are dominating the creative scene in all the industries that you know of. I'm thinking of Kai Collective. I'm thinking of the artist that I've seen on TikTok. Gosh, I'm really irritated that I can't remember her name, but she makes art based on Bible stories, but like in the most unique and fascinating way. That do you think she would be able to achieve something of that caliber if she Googled, people painting pictures of Bible stories? Do you think that she'd be able to make something as beautiful as that? Do you think Keziah would have elevated Kai Collective in the way that it did if she checked up, who's making monogram barrel pants with a logo on the back pocket in bright red and yellow? Like, there's one thing about looking at your competition and seeing, where you can fit into a gap in the market. There's nuance to this conversation, of course, but if there's one thing that I encourage you, and I encourage myself as well, is just to be a bit more impulsive. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, you can always look back at it in a week time and delete it. I mean, in terms of content, like, you can make a video off the top of your head that you think, oh yeah, this is going to slap, like, this is going to make so much sense. And you can look back in a week and be like, yeah, nah, big up myself for being impulsive, but that is a bit cringe and it doesn't actually align. And you can delete it. But you can't create the exact same type of video with the exact same zest for life and uniqueness 7 days after the thought was made, because the thought will be gone. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just like, when a thought first comes into your head, and this is what I talk about in my journaling series on TikTok as well. When a thought first comes into your head, write it down. Literally write it down. Because it's never going to come to your brain that same way again. You could say, oh my God, that's a cool idea. Let me come back to that next week. You're probably not. There is going to be a myriad of other things that distract you between now and next week that you may not have that thought again. And if you do have that thought again, you're going to be kicking yourself because you're not going to remember how you phrased it in your head last time. Sometimes when you're sitting on the bus or you're sitting in the car and you're like, damn, that was good. When you're just like daydreaming and you're like, oh, that was a good one. Or when you wake up from a dream and you're like, that was a good ass dream, but 5 minutes later, you forget what you dreamed about. You literally forget what happened. Bro, I have a lip gloss crust. I'm so irritated. This happens when I talk too much. In my humble defense, it's 11 p.m. So you guys can't chat. You actually can't chat. And half of you listening on Spotify can't even see this anymore anyway. Ha, brokey. Sorry, it's nothing to do with you guys. It's just Spotify being jarring. Anyway, guys, I feel my brain shutting down. I think the adrenaline high has kind of like dissipated, but just at the right time. I think I've gotten what I need to get off my chest. And I think the overarching message is be more impulsive. Create more than you consume. And don't be afraid of somebody having the same thought as you and executing it well. Because one, you don't know the process that it took for them to execute it that well. That could be their third time executing that idea based on an original thought that they acted on impulsively. You don't know the journey that it took for them to get there. And you don't know the journey that you could be taking yourself on if you just take that leap of faith and have trust in your ability to take an idea from a notion to a concept to a tangible result. It's all possible. But you really need to lean into trusting yourself and mitigate the noise of the ego that tells you that you're going to be a beg or you're going to look like a loser because somebody else is doing the exact same thing that you are. I'm not going to bring up that plantain ass topic of, oh, look, Tesco knew that Lidl existed, but Tesco just still decided to open, and Sainsbury's also open, and Morrison's also open, and Super Value also. We know. But also, like I said in my first episode, wow, I'm referencing this one a lot, but like, even look at the topic, the plantain topics. Yeah, we laugh at the conversation, who pays on the first date, but guess who's still having that conversation? There's many a podcasts that are doing better than this one that thrive off plantain topics. You know why? Because they don't care that it's been run to the ground 10 million times. If they feel like they have something else to bring to the table that all the other plantain topics warriors are not bringing to the table, they bring it to the table and it's working for them, and it can work for you as well. So please, if it's plantain topic you want to discuss it. If it's Lululemon dupe you want to make, tracksuits, Nike Tech dupe you want to make it. Another tracksuit brand, do we need another one? I'm not going to say no, because who am I to say when the gap is fully closed, okay? They're still popping up. There's still people making them, and people are still acting on their impulses, and I think you should too. Because the idea will literally leave your brain. I promise you, I wish I had the PubMed article to back me up right now. If I could even find the citing of it, I'll put it here, but actually, no, that's a lie. I'm not going to put it here because I'm literally going to edit this and post it like in a couple days, and I'm not looking back at this again. I'm so sorry. Maybe later for a Substack. Follow me on Substack if you want to see this written out. Maybe with a little bit more research involved, but I promise you, the uniqueness of an original thought is finite. It doesn't last very long in the brain, and it doesn't evoke that indescribable feeling in the soul for that long. So you really need to take advantage of how passionate you are towards that thought while it's still fresh and while it's still there. And like I said, you never know what it could actualize into. So please create more than you consume. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm literally falling asleep. Like, I feel my eye is doing anyhow. My eye is doing like this. My neck is doing like this. My head Listen, bonnet on, pajamas on, bed is made. I'm going to bed. Thank you guys for listening to episode 5, I think. No, I'm pretty sure this is episode 6, guys. I'm not even gonna chat. Okay, what do I think it is? 5, 6? I could just check it up right now, but I don't want to do that. So thanks for listening to episode 5/6/6/7 of the Friend in the Room podcast. I've been your host, Keziah, your friend in the room as always and forever, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are, and God bless you all. Good night and goodbye.